welcome to the School Picture. I'm Melissa McQuarrie. Virginia Beach Schools is constantly seeking ways to improve and enhance student achievement. Now more than ever, students need to be prepared to compete in a global society. Compass to 2015, the division's strategic plan for student success, is a blueprint of sorts to ensure that students will graduate having mastered the skills they need to succeed as 21st century learners and workers. Those skills include critical thinking, effective communication, problem solving, and the ability to collaborate, just to name a few. In a minute, School Superintendent Dr. James Merrill and Dominic Melito, President of the Virginia Beach Education Association, will join me to talk about the plan's 5 strategic objectives and how teachers and administrators will work together to achieve the desired student outcomes. But first, let's take a look at the first strategic objective.
And like any long journey, it all begins with establishing a goal and charting a course.
All teachers will engage every student in meaningful, authentic, and rigorous work through the use of innovative instructional practices and supportive technologies that will motivate students to be self-directed and inquisitive learners.
That means integrating 21st century skills like problem solving, critical and creative thinking, and communication and collaboration into all areas of instruction. This process begins by delivering a common understanding of 21st century learning by observing and dialoguing about instructional practices.
So Beach Schools began learning walks. Principals, school administrators, and fellow teachers are walking through schools, visiting classrooms, and talking about instruction. To make sure that everyone is looking through the same lens, a list of look-fors has been developed. So what are we looking for? Are students engaged in authentic learning activities? Are they making connections and communicating their thinking? Take a look at this 3rd grade history lesson.
Somebody who builds like the monument.
Who thinks that they have a symbol or monument, an example of one that they can bring up? Marco, bring yours up. Emily, bring one up. Bo, bring one up. Statue of Liberty. The Cardinal. Jefferson Memorial. So we have Statue of Liberty, Jefferson Memorial, a Cardinal, and Washington Monument. If you had to say one of those did not belong, which one would you say and why? Which one do you think, Paige?
I would say a cardinal.
Why?
Because, like, it's more the eagle that, it's the bird that represents, like, country.
Okay, I like the way she's thinking.
Virginia Beach Schools will deliver high-quality curriculum based on the Understanding by Design model, or UBD. That means we begin planning for instruction by identifying what students should know, understand, and be able to do. Then designing learning plans that incorporate 21st century skills to guide students toward the desired outcomes.
Student engagement and how it relates in terms of 21st century skills. Beach Schools are developing ways to incorporate this approach system-wide. That's because we believe that students shouldn't be only engaged in the lesson. They should be applying what they learn into real-life experiences.
That approach is already in action in technical and career education classes and through the implementation of workplace readiness skills.
In addition, senior projects are a great platform to put lessons to work. Or take a look at this class project, the Honorable Knights program, at Kellam High School, for example.
Here, students are challenged to identify and research a community need. Next, they're asked to develop related business and marketing plans to create an awareness campaign. And the project integrates technology through a final multimedia project.
I got a lot out of it. Working together, collaborative learning, the ability to communicate. They had to create a fundraising plan, and they did not have to actually do the fundraising, but every single group chose to do it, and they've raised over about $4,500.
I think it's probably the most influential project I've been involved with since I've been attending Kellam High School, because it not only helps us with our grades, but it helps other countries in need.
Dr. Merrill and Mr. Melito, thank you for joining me today on the School Picture to talk about the school division's new strategic plan, Compass to 2015. I guess the obvious first question is, why did we need a new plan?
Well, a lot of research results, surveys and polls of employers, university professors, parents, even the same sorts of results in our own community tell us that the skills that students currently are being prepared with are not sufficient for them when they go into either continuing education, the workforce, or even the military. So there's compelling information right now that says we need to work differently in terms of preparing our kids for the future. And I think if anyone has recent graduates or those close to graduating, they're experiencing the same sort of effect that, we thought they were ready, but maybe not. So that was the initial driver behind all this.
Well, I know when you were setting out to start planning this, you got input from a lot of different stakeholders, parents, community members, and so forth. Was it challenging to incorporate all of their different views, or were the objectives and goals rather similar?
Well, the manner in which we did it, I think, was sort of a cascading approach. And it started with some small focus groups to identify what the key questions were. And then we broadened out and then eventually got to the point of a very large town hall meeting at the convention center. And then sort of triaged the key aspects. And it was really encouraging to see what came out on top from the community. And invitees were faith community, business, military, teachers, parents, school administrators. So I think we really did a nice job of getting the cross-section of everyone. The emerging pieces: critical thinking, problem solving, ability to collaborate, effective communication, academic proficiency. From that, we then went into a 6-month work group of about 30, 31, 32 people, of whom one was the leadership of the VBEA. At that time, it was not Dom, but for instance, those folks were involved, parent leadership, everything else. So. And then came out with the work plan. I mean, the process of how we built the strategic plan is almost old news now, and a lot of it's on our website, but it's a very sound way to arrive at what we need to be doing for our students.
And so the VBEA was involved in that process and gave input?
Yes, my predecessor was in that committee that Dr. Merrill has talked about, and I'm happy to say that I'm part of SO5 and actually one of the subcommittee chairs in charge of professional development.
And by SO you mean?
Strategic objective.
Right, that's what they call it when you're actually working
code,
on
that's
code.
right.
Code
Yes.
word, got it.
Education speak.
Right. So in looking at the plan, some people might say that it's a real shift away from the old way of doing business, moving away from the SOLs and sort of teaching to the test. Is that an accurate assessment?
We have no intention of ignoring content. This is not about ignoring content and ignoring standardized tests. It is about a different way of taking advantage of the content in the curriculum. The tests will be there. We're working on different kinds of assessments in addition to the state's SOLs. So it's about changing who's doing the work, how we're assessing work, and how we're assessing students. But we have to recognize that standardized accountability in Virginia will be around a long time, and we will still have to reckon with that. Our assumption, however, is that teaching a different way, working with kids at a higher level of skills, will benefit on the SOLs also.
Yeah. Mr. Melito, do you see any of those kinds of things already going on in classrooms?
Well, yeah, teachers have always wanted to teach these higher level thinking skills, and they make every effort that they can in the classroom right now, but we've kind of gotten into the rut of teaching to the test, especially in courses where the SOLs exist. And I think that being allowed to experiment and try new things and attempt to use some teaching techniques that incorporate some 21st century skills into the curriculum will be very helpful, and teachers will be looking forward to doing that.
Great. So let's, sorry,
if
go ahead.
I could just,
yes.
This thing about teaching to the test, it's not necessarily wrong if the tests are aligned with the curriculum. Because if the standard curriculum, which is the state's plus Virginia's approach to it, Virginia Beach's approach to it, and then your tests aligned to that, that is what you're supposed to be teaching. And I will commend our staff and our teachers in Virginia Beach. We've done a superb job of recognizing this is how students will be scored and assessed. This is how we need to teach to arrive at that. So our teachers have been excellent at playing under the existing rules of accountability and everything else. And this is about, can we do something a little different?
So then we're taking it to the next level.
Sure, hope so.
So let's start talking about some of these strategic objectives, or SOs, as you said, Dominic. Strategic Objective 1, it's a call to action for teachers to engage students in meaningful, rigorous work, integrating technologies throughout. How do you do that? What does it look like? How do you measure it?
Well, let me respond first and then give it to Dom. There are a couple pieces to this. One is looking at the existing curriculum and trying to blend in what we've now defined as our own set of 21st century skills into the curriculum, into the standards, into lesson plans and everything else. So a lot of that work has to be occurring with our specialists in curriculum, teacher advisory groups, and all that. At the same time, we're working with teachers in the classroom to shift from the old traditional 3 R's of reading, writing, and arithmetic to rigor, relevance, and relationships. Most educators recognize the best way to success now is to develop a relationship with a student, whether you're in first grade or whether you're in 12th grade. And so that's a key piece. So changing really how you think about designing lessons and working with students with assistance from our curriculum folk and all, that's a lot of what's going on in Strategic Objective 1.
Well, one of the things that employers have been talking about that they want to see more of the skills in the workforce are collaborative work, and I hope to have teachers have more opportunity to teach in that way, to allow the students to work together and to be more of a facilitator in the classroom. And so it's encouraging that we're moving in that direction.
There was, in that huge town hall meeting, there was one of the top tier skills that came out that was really kind of interesting and encouraging, I think, and I think our educators really appreciated it. That from a lot of the business and parents, it said, we want students to be responsible for and to own their own work. That's a huge shift. And a recognition that unless a student really cares for their own work, they're not invested. The burden falls on the teacher to inspire and to do whatever, which is next to impossible if the student isn't engaged and doesn't really care about what they're doing. So as Dom said, a lot of this is trying to move it so that the student becomes the worker and the teacher becomes the facilitator. And you move away from the old traditional sage on the stage concept of the teacher in front of nice lined up rows doing all the talking and they're just receiving. It's much more active, engaged learning is what we're trying to get at with students now.
And I would imagine, though, in making that shift and helping teachers to become comfortable, it must take a lot of coordination between administrators and teachers with each other so that they really understand what rigorous and engaging work looks like in the classroom. How's that going?
It is difficult for a couple of reasons. We're still defining many things. The other is we're a huge organization. And as I talk to other specialists in the nation, they give me examples of a high school that's doing X or a charter school that's doing X, and I sort of try and blow them out of the box and say, don't bring me examples of a single school who can be successful or that can be successful. So the real challenge for us is, can we do this at scale across 86 schools? And in truth, some folks in the nation are watching us because if as a division we can figure out how to do this new work across all our schools, we may be onto something. But it is challenging, and we're still in the early stages of this strategic plan.
And each school has its own different culture and
Sure.
way of doing things, so that adds to the challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would say that obviously we can't just roll it out completely in every single school. So we could do some piloting to try to work out the kinks, so to speak, and we've incorporated many other programs and changes in the same manner, and it is compassed to 2015. We're in 2010. I got to get used to saying 2010 now. Yeah, so it's a process, and we're looking forward to working together to get it done.
Well, and I know you can attest that traditionally teaching has been somewhat isolating, hasn't it, with teachers in their own classroom with their own children. That's going to have to change now, isn't it?
Well, yes. You know, depending on the structure and the grade level, for the most part, teachers do their own show, their own thing, and there aren't very many opportunities to collaborate with other teachers. Even to get an idea or concept of, well, I want to do what that other teacher's doing because they're a very good teacher. There's no way to know that because we don't get to see each other in action and things like that. So as we go forward in this conversation today, we'll see that there will be opportunities for teachers to actually not only work together on things, but also observe each other and figure out what are the best practices.
It would sort of seem that the success of all this would depend on that collaboration and real mutual understanding of what's important and how it should look. Is that true?
I would say that the greater the collaboration, the greater the likelihood of success, yes. Mm-hmm. And initially, I think teachers can see what this can mean and are really excited about the possibilities. It's almost a freeing feeling for a lot of veteran teachers who say, finally, we get to work inclusively in all those areas that we know we need to be doing for kids. So there's some excitement, I think, about this.
Yeah, it's the way teachers want to teach, and now they have the freedom to do that. So on to strategic objective 2. We have to sort of get back to the assessment piece. We can't avoid it, as you said. We've talked about SOLs already, but I understand that there's a continuum now in place to measure the 21st century skills so that we really know what they look like. Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, let me go back before that a little bit and talk about the whole issue of assessment. Mm-hmm. There's a term in educational jargon for CIA, and it's not the Central Intelligence Agency. It's curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And you can drive instruction and your curriculum design if you go to the end of that first and say, okay, these are what the assessments need to look like. In effect, we've done that. We've said these are the skills we want our students to possess. This is how we can measure it. And in order to measure it, we need to come back and we need to look at this is how you modify the curriculum, and you talk about changing the instruction. Measuring these skills. I mean, think about it. How do you measure critical thinking? This is not which year was Lincoln shot, A, B, C, or all of the above, which, by the way, would not be possible. But if you think about measurement of these skills, this is hard. We did a lot of research trying to figure out what assessments exist. We've looked at other nations, and we've landed more on what's called a model that's called college and work readiness assessment. And we're going to modify that some for our lower grades and checkpoints at grades 4 and 7. But that is a more problem-based, balanced assessment that we would do in addition to what's still required, which are the SOLs and those standardized tests. That we're pretty excited about because if we now can see how we can assess, then we can almost back map, which we're doing also in the curriculum, and then how do you look at your lesson plans, everything else. So the first version of some of these pilot tests will occur this spring, and we're excited to see how that comes back. Recognizing that we really haven't changed our instruction much yet to fit those assessments, but at least we'll have a benchmark and a starting point. And we have a group of kids that are scoring like this, then we can start building from it.
Know where we need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Melito, based on the feedback you've received, how do teachers feel about these new assessments?
Well, again, as Dr. Merrill had just stated, we haven't really rolled them out yet, but I think that teachers are very interested in being able to assess their students beyond just rote memorization. But one of the challenges is going to be, like we faced with the SOLs when they didn't count for the students, how do we make it so that the students will actually try their best on these things? And we run the danger of testing just for testing's sake. But again, we're trying to measure these these 21st century skills, and so we have to make it have an appropriate attachment of this actually will count, and they need to try their best on these tests.
Yeah, and I would think they would be happy that they are now measuring things that are already going on in their classrooms. This is a way for them to measure that.
Exactly. That's very true, because sometimes there are, they may not, a student may not remember some kind of fact or factoid or something, but then when they're asked a critical thinking question, they can demonstrate that they have that skill, but they may have forgotten what year Lincoln was shot in or whatever. So,
Melissa, you had asked about a continuum, and while it's not quite out, we will share that and release it. It's been in some design. We think it's pretty well ready. We've had a lot of teachers react to it, groups of teachers look at it and react. And what's exciting about that, and I've shared this with some others also, we really got stuck on how would you assess third grade reading? How would you assess seventh grade mathematics? And the thought of all these assessments at all these grade levels in all these content areas was just immobilizing. Mm-hmm. And I think the real breakthrough was a continuum that allows you to assess the skills on a short 4-range continuum, each one, at any grade level in any content area. And so the simplicity is tremendous. And I think teachers will love the simplicity of it and the adaptability. It can work in physical education, it can work in physics. So that could be the real breakthrough in terms of how can you assess these skills.
Yeah. A new roadmap, if you will.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Objective 3. I understand this one addresses achievement gaps with particular focus on African American males. I know there's been progress in this area. Can you give me a brief update on where we are with that one?
This is a huge objective. It combines student achievement on all standardized measures, and so it recognizes that there will still be judgments based on SATs, AP participation, advanced diplomas, whatever it might be, as well as other interventions that we're working on for students. There's a national model referred to as RTI, response to intervention. We are working on that, which is a huge piece to bring up and a lot of training. That's about working with kids and trying to catch them before they either get behind or they hit the wall on something. So it's a timely way to work with kids. The essence of SO3 is about recognizing that each kid, each student needs to be taken care of and needs to be watched and monitored, and as soon as there's a deviation or a stumble, there's a team, there's a teacher, whoever it might be at the school that can say, hold it, wait, let's talk, let's look at the student work, let's find out what's going on. Yes, that would capture issues of achievement gap. It would capture more kids moving into higher and more rigorous courses. So a lot of those pieces are occurring in Strategic Objective 3, and that may be the objective where we have the most teachers working in many subcommittees. Although SO5, when Dom talks about it, there are a lot of teachers working there.
Yeah, so catching them early before they get behind is a critical piece, but also making sure that all students have access to the honors and advanced academic programs and those sorts of things as well. I know that's an important piece.
Well, the key word is each student.
Each student.
It's written in a way that says no one can fall through. That's the intent. And when you're large, conceivably sometimes you miss some students, and before you really notice, they're out in left field, and it's really hard to get them back and get them back on track.
Yeah. And that really starts with the classroom teacher, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of our great things that we are trying to do, try to identify the needs of each individual student and adjust accordingly, encourage where encouragement is needed, and try to if you think you see something there and a kid could be even better and try better things. Like I taught high school, so there were a lot of times I felt that some of the kids in my classes, I wasn't teaching an AP class, but I felt that they really should have been in an AP class. So I would encourage them, next year you need to move into that other track because you've got some talents. And teachers are also trained on how to spot gifted students and things like that. And and then of course course, they go through the process. If they make a referral that this person is should be gifted, then the other teachers get a little checkpoint form to fill out to see if certain characteristics are being identified by them in the classroom. So we do our best to try to identify kids and try to give them the encouragement appropriately. So.
Dr. Merrill mentioned the RTI, response to intervention model. Is that sort of what you're talking about in a more strategic or systematic fashion?
I think we do, where we do the best with that is probably the middle school model that has team teachers working with the same students and kind of providing the input, well, this is what he's doing in my class and that kind of thing. So if we can formalize it and make it a more efficient way, then I think we're on to something. Be good.
And Mr. Melito, when teachers and parents hear things like response to intervention, new assessments, plans for continuous improvement, it can be a little overwhelming. It seems to me, though, that the Compass to 2015 would actually help target teachers' work and make it more efficient. Wouldn't you say?
I hope so. That's what I hope occurs. And it is going to be a challenge because we're going to be shifting from, tried and true ways of doing things to a more collaborative, model, and there will be challenges, and as Dr. Merrill mentioned, there are 86 schools where it's got to be incorporated. So overall, I would say the plan sounds pretty good, and the devil's going to be in the details, but I think if we all work together and keep the feedback open, things should go well.
We're going to take a quick break. When the school picture returns, we'll talk about how you, the members of our community, can support student achievement as part of the Division Strategic Plan, Compass to 2015.
These suspects are not making the intersection connection. Recognize anyone? This dame can't seem to take her foot off the gas when she sees red. Instead of stopping, she speeds up, trying to save a minute. And this character speeds, drinks, and drives, follows too close, real menace. This left-hand turner thinks everyone else would get out of the way. Hey, Lefty, ever heard of yield? And Mr. Jay Walker, we all know what he's guilty of. No respect for social order. Stay out of this lineup, take extra care at intersections, and survive the drive.
Meatball on white. Next. You want mustard on that or not? Come on, I haven't got all day here. It doesn't come with peppers. They're extra. Hurry up, pay the lady. Next! Chicken's fresh, I killed it myself. So that's what you want? Next! While we're still young, you told me you wanted mustard. Get out of here. Time's up, back of the line.
Hey, excuse me.
What?
Great sandwich, thanks.
Compliments. Pass them on.
Yeah.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to The School Picture. The School Division's Strategic Plan, Compass to 2015, is a blueprint of sorts for how our schools will do business. It lays out our expectation for ourselves as educators, our expectations for our students, and outlines what you, the community, can expect from us. One of the plan's main objectives is to create opportunities to engage parents, community members, and business leaders in our schools in support of student achievement. Let's take a look.
VBCPS will create opportunities for parents, community, and business leaders to fulfill their essential roles as actively engaged partners in supporting student achievement and outcomes for student success.
What does an engaged parent or partner look like? They come in all shapes and sizes, young and old. They are mentors and volunteers, parents helping in a classroom or with homework in the evening. In short, they look like you.
And I think the students are looking for just any life experiences they can relate to. So no matter what you do, doctor, lawyer, architect, homemaker, whatever it is, I think you can offer those experiences to kids.
Virginia Beach Schools has more than 20,000 volunteers and 2,400 partners in education. But that's not the only way for parents and community members to support student achievement. It begins at home.
As a result of the strategic plan, the district launched an outreach called Parent Connection to make sure families have the resources that they need. It offers an ongoing series of workshops, classes, and events focusing on all aspects of parenting and family life. For example, health and nutrition, behavior and discipline, special education, developing strong study habits, and applying to college, just to name a few.
The Parent Connection webpage is a one-stop shop for information. Constantly updated, it features guest columns written by doctors, educators, and other specialists in the community.
There's a calendar of special events and training sessions, not just from the school division, but from other local agencies as well.
And there are links to information and organizations which support students, parents, and academic achievement. Parents of students with disabilities also have access to a resource center, which has a specialty library with books and videos on disability topics.
There are free workshops throughout the year, and parents can sign up to receive a free newsletter. Under the strategic plan, this resource will be more aggressively promoted so that families who can benefit from the center are more aware of the available services.
Another important link between our schools and families at home is SchoolNet. Beginning in the 2009-2010 school year, all parents will have online access to their students' grades. SchoolNet gives parents the ability to see class grades and individual assignments along with attendance and academic records.
As a parent, it gives me very timely access to information about my child's progress. It was like having access to the grade book all the time. I was able to see what was coming up to be due. The parents that were using it, they found it very helpful in understanding how their student was doing, their child was doing in school, their progress.
Eventually, students will have access to their own grades through an online student portal as well.
Of course, technology won't replace the one-on-one communication between teacher and parent, but it is an outstanding resource for families.
We often hear from parents that they want to be involved in their child's education, but there are obstacles such as work schedules or a lack of transportation. So we're going to be more innovative. We'll bring some events, activities, and resources into neighborhoods rather than parents coming to the schools. And we'll work with business and community leaders to increase the number of mentorships, internships, job shadowing, and other workforce opportunities to support student achievement.
As the Director of Community Relations, I have to say this subject is near and dear to my heart, as I'm sure it is to VBEA President Dominic Melito and School Superintendent Dr. James Merrill.
Well, it is, and it's one of the 5 strategic objectives, this entire piece that came from our community that said better connections, we want to support more, we need better information, really an improvement on that linkage between the parents who support us, the businesses, the faith community, the military, all those groups that help support our work. We can't do it alone. We can't do it just inside our buildings with our own employees and our students. And so this is all about trying to improve those connections and provide better information. There's been a lot that's occurred over the last several months. You are in a position that contributes to this, as you said a minute ago. This Saturday morning, for instance, is an example on a parent connection conference where we provide opportunities for parents in terms of parenting and skill work for their own households and with their own children. Some of our technology has really improved the communication. SchoolNet and something called Parent Portal that now finally in almost every school, and we're almost there, allows parents to really log in and check on student work and communicate with teacher and see what's going on in the classroom. When you close that circle, there's really nowhere for a student to hide in terms of getting off track. And so these are all positive steps. We've also, in conjunction with your office, a relatively new position, a Director for Equity Affairs, that also supports some of the work in the community and spends time with your office, with mine, and conference work. So a lot of different strategies occurring in this area that we continue to work on. And there's also a portion of our community that has never really felt good about schools, hard for them to support their children perhaps because they weren't successful themselves. We are spending a lot of time trying to improve that connection with families who either are disconnected for any possible number of reasons from the school and what we're trying to accomplish. So a lot of pieces going on in this area as well.
Yeah. Mr. Melito, how about the teacher perspective on that? We all agree that having parents involved and the community involved is important for students, but there are some who are more difficult to reach. Do teachers understand the value of what parents are doing at home and the importance of reaching out to them?
Yes, absolutely. As it is right now, we have it set up where parents can easily reach teachers by email. They're able to check grades in most cases and provide feedback. But I would have to say still, one thing that holds true is that the best thing that a parent can do for their child is to monitor their work at home, to check and make sure that if they have homework, what it is, and in the cases where kids don't want to share homework, well, that homework is available on websites and various other places where the parent themselves can check. And just keep track of what's going on at home, and provide feedback to the teacher. If a student did not do well on a test, and you ask the student, their child, what happened here, and that kind of thing. And perhaps just getting feedback from the child, they didn't understand this, that can go back to the teacher, and the teacher will have a better idea of what area he's missing on, or what his or her thoughts are on the test and things like that. So.
Yeah, Mr. Melito brings up a good point. Not all parents are available to come to school for meetings or to volunteer, but there are things that they can do at home that are supportive and helpful as well, right?
There are in the conference I referenced a minute ago that would occur, and that's not the first conference we've set up for parents on a weekend so that they could attend is one example. We also added a messaging system. I think we call it Alert Now. It's great on weather days, but it's also great for communication to parents on issues that they need to be notified of. It can go to multiple places. It can go to a cell phone, it can go to a work phone, it can go to an email address. So the technology is also really helping us better communicate and connect. Also the percentage of households that do have internet connection continues to go up. Now, we still have families that don't have those connections, but there are other technologies that I think can help accommodate until folks have that ability to connect. And in the student portal section, if I understand one of the opportunities, it's like a financial software. You can set alerts so that if my child dips below X grade, please notify me. And you get a ding in your phone or a text message, and it says, "Uh-oh, John just dropped below a C." It's really nice to see some of those pieces moving into education that we can take advantage of as well.
And a way for the school system to help parents who may be busy and
right.
have time constraints and not be able to be at the school when they would like to be.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Well, we're going to take another quick break. When we return, we'll talk with Dr. Merrill and VBEA President Dominic Melito about staff development and the support and resources teachers need to carry out the objectives of the school division's strategic plan.
Seventh grade. What was this jumper made of?
Naugahyde.
You let me go to school dressed like a seat cover.
You convinced me that it was groovy. Edna.
You know, I'm having this wedding here tomorrow, and your weeds are growing through the fence. Do you care?
Think of your fellow man.
I see some things haven't changed.
Put a little love in your heart.
Take this to Edna while I change into my garden clothes.
Why me?
Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place. And the world.
You're planning them too close together.
Edna, it's going to be a beautiful wedding.
Yeah, maybe.
Patience. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Does your child have asthma? Did you know asthma attacks can be triggered by things like shower curtains, a child's blanket, even a teddy bear? Help prevent your child's asthma attacks. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS or visit noattacks.org to get the latest information and avoid the emergency room.
I don't want to feel like a fish with no water.
Welcome back to this special edition of The School Picture. My guests are Dominic Melito, President of the Virginia Beach Education Association, and Dr. James Merrill, Superintendent of Virginia Beach Schools. We're talking about the school division's strategic plan, Compass to 2015. So far, we've looked at the first 4 objectives: engaging every student, developing a balanced assessment system, improving academic achievement for all students, and creating opportunities for community engagement. The 5th strategic objective focuses on developing staff competencies. Here's an overview.
VBCPS will be accountable for developing essential leader, teacher, and staff competencies and optimizing all resources to achieve the school division's strategic goal and outcomes for student success.
Research shows that the single greatest influence in whether or not a student will succeed is the classroom teacher. So it's important that teachers understand what 21st century skills they are being asked to teach look like and how best to incorporate them into the classroom. But where do we start? Virginia Beach teachers already participate in extensive professional development, much of it centered on the subject matter that they teach.
How do we move as a division from a focus on standards of learning competence to higher order thinking and learning? One way is by developing professional learning communities, or PLCs.
A PLC is a small group of educators who commit to long-term collaboration to improve student achievement.
Many teachers already do this, but the goal is to form PLCs focused on student learning throughout the division.
Working together, members of the PLC will examine student work and data. As a result, they adjust learning plans and activities to meet the needs of all students.
Just like a student-centered approach works so well in the classroom, a teacher-centered approach is what we need for professional development.
Schools need to start to become transparent. We need to be able to go next door and observe each other and learn from our peers. If we do that, we will start to keep pace with the future.
With the PLC, a small group of educators get together and focus solely on student achievement. So they commit to collaborate long-term, they analyze data, they examine student work, and then they decide on some best practices that they use to approach looking at student improvement.
Unfortunately, teaching can sometimes be an isolating profession, one where teachers work independently in their own classrooms with little time or opportunity to collaborate. PLCs will help change that.
Another important area of focus is the continued professional development of staff. That can range from formal classes to something as simple as sharing best practices with their colleagues.
For example, the division is setting up a video library for teachers. It's a chance for them to see successful techniques their peers are using and perhaps take away a few concrete ideas to try out in their own classrooms.
Mr. Melito, it goes without saying that Virginia Beach has some of the best and brightest teachers in the nation.
That is definitely true, Melissa. The division has more than 5,700 full-time teachers, and the average length of a teaching experience is about 14 and a half years. We have 92 nationally board certified teachers, with those numbers growing all the time. And as a teacher of high school, I have the really neat experience of interacting with my former students as teachers. As a matter of fact, I was at Brookwood Elementary School recently, and 4 of my former students were first grade teachers at Brookwood, and I can safely say they were among my best and brightest in the classroom. So when I see things like that, it just makes me feel really good, and another reason to be proud to be a teacher in the Virginia Beach public school system.
Oh, that's great. Well, as wonderful as our teachers are, they can't be successful without the proper tools and resources. So I have a 2-part question. Mr. Melito, what kind of support are teachers looking for from our division? And conversely, Dr. Merrill, what resources and support does the division provide?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, teachers are looking to be treated as professionals and to have their input valued. They bring great energy, joy, enthusiasm to the classroom, and they're willing to try new and innovative strategies, but they need time to think about and assess and assimilate the new ideas. They need to have the freedom to try these new things, knowing that they'll still have the support even if it doesn't go well the first time around. And one of the biggest things that they're going to need is time to plan and to implement all of these things. And as far as another thing they're going to need is some professional development that is real relevant and has at the core these new 21st century teaching skills. As I mentioned before, I'm on Strategic Objective 5, and one of the subcommittee chairs that's going to be looking at making sure that the professional development that we provide for our teachers does incorporate 21st century skills into them. We're also looking at data about the best practices and the best kinds of professional development.
Dr. Merrill?
Well, as Dom was talking, I was just coming up with a new slogan, 21 for 21, because our current professional development plan, you with me on this? 21 hours for 21st century skills.
I like it.
There is the opportunity, because there is time expected of teachers and paid for professional development. You can always improve on the offerings, and a lot of what Dom and his folks are doing in SO5 is agreeing on what should we be teaching teachers about the 21st century skills. And because we're recently having defined them, starting to get video clips of our own people who are already intuitively teaching this way, that comes more slowly. What we've talked about, excuse me, in the first part of this show, really were the right sequential steps. You have to look at your curriculum, you have to design your assessments, and once you know what that's looking like, then you can build your teacher support and your capacity building, and that's what so much of Strategic Objective 5 is all about. A lot of heavy lifting still to be done. You're talking about getting it across all groups, but discussions like should you perhaps limit the huge menu of opportunities and focus some just fewer opportunities, but all around 21st century. You can really push an organization in a strategic way through that methodology. So whether we do that or not, I don't know, but those are the kinds of questions that Dom and his committees are spending time on.
Well, the video we saw just a moment ago touched on the concept of professional learning communities. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah. PLCs, as they're called, are a relatively newly named strategy for collaboration and work improvement. The components, and it's in truth, we've had a difficult time of bringing PLCs up this year. We've said we want every school using PLCs as a structure to work on continuous improvement planning, which is the school's personalized plan for student achievement and growth. But it's really built around small groups of teachers looking at student work and student achievement, and then analyzing that work and saying, okay, these are some things we need to do differently so that Alice can be more successful. Or if we do this, then we can avoid this kind of failure, if you will, on a test or a future iteration of an assessment. And also strengthen those things that are working well, because when teachers come together, and I think Dom made reference to this earlier, we all benefit from that. And we had a small group of teachers last night doing a simulation on this, and to watch them work in small groups of 4 or 5 as an example, they were all coming back saying, you know, I teach PE, but I can see now how I can contribute to a student's vocabulary in my work. And that's the kind of sort of expansion of the capacity for teachers and student learning that you want to see. Dom comes back to sort of the toughest building block in all this, and it's the matter of TIME. Yeah. And I was recently with a group of superintendents from across the nation, and I put it on the table, said, has anyone really come up with a creative way to rethink time for the sake of kids and for the sake of teacher growth and work together? And there's no breakthrough on this. I'm not quitting on that, but we somehow need to think of other ways to address time. Teachers want to do this work. Teachers are as frustrated as the administrators as we are, because they don't have time to come together to learn it. And we do some turnkey training, we'll sit with teacher leaders in schools, and then even they get frustrated and they come back to their school and say, I don't have a chance to pass it on to the rest of my faculty. So that's a real bear for us, and we recognize it's a limitation. I'm concerned that the future budgets for the next couple of years might compress even that. So it's a piece we have to reconcile, and I don't have a quick and good answer on that.
Is that what you're hearing from the teacher perspective?
At this point, yes. And one of the things that Dr. Merrill mentioned, having a little group sit down together and you know, demonstrate a successful PLC, if we can get a tape of that and then show that as an example of what this is what a PLC, a collaborative effort, looks like, I think that'd be very helpful, because we're in varying stages of implementation of the PLCs. There are schools within our division that have been working on it for a couple of years, and there are ones that are still trying to get it implemented. So to try to in an effort to try to get some more information about it, the director of organizational leadership, Dr. Lois Peterson, was actually at the last VBEA rep meeting talking about how she sees the PLCs and how they're to be implemented, and answering the questions that our reps had. So again, it's going to be a collaborative effort, and I think if we are all working together, we can you know, we can get it done. And Dr. Merrill is right about the challenge of time, and I appreciate him supporting that. We all realize that teacher time is of the essence and valuable, and we have to come up with more time within the school day for teachers to get this work done.
Well, and it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if this is done correctly, it will actually lighten the load for teachers because it will be sharing the work. Is that true?
Yes. I mean, your long-term vision says that if you have collaboration, teachers pick up pieces from other teachers and they don't need to reinvent the wheels themselves individually. That you really have a multiplication of skill when teachers can, you know, get together and talk around student work and say, oh, that works in your class, I can use that. The other thing that's important to understand about PLCs, this is not a 10-step process to success that can be done in the first 3 months of school. This is about a philosophy of personal growth. It's about collaboration among adults. It's about looking at student work as the center for your discussion rather than teacher performance. I mean, it's a different way of going at problem solving. And as Dom said, you have faculties that are farther along on this continuum than others. You have some that this is all new. And so we will have in Virginia Beach a real a spectrum of where schools are on sort of the maturity of their PLCs in their schools. And it can be as small as 5 teachers around one area, or as large as 35 on another part in a faculty that's doing something else. So it's fluid, but folks need to understand it's human behavior, it's changing behavior in how you think about things, and that's not done just like that.
Not done overnight, for sure. Collaboration and communication then are 2 of the themes woven throughout all of this, all the objectives of the plan. Compass to 2015 calls on teachers and students to embrace and utilize those skills along with critical thinking, problem solving, and so forth. True?
Yes. The skills are listed and defined on our website. And we went through great labor to define those, because you could Google 21st century skills and get 10,000 hits of supposedly what the skills are. The beauty in Virginia Beach, I think, is the fact that we labored long enough to say, these may look a lot like what others have done, but these are ours because we define them, we own them. So they have more meaning for us. But you've highlighted the key elements, and we really ask teachers and school leaders and parents to understand that when you're working with kids, you're talking about designing instruction to get at these kinds of skills, not necessarily memorization. But I need to clarify, basic skill building in elementary and mastery of reading and computation, that's critical, that's fundamental, that will always need to take place. But as you move a student maturationally and educationally up, you have to keep pushing them to higher levels of thinking and collaboration and problem solving. And that's what this is about, taking it beyond the minimum standards of the SOLs and taking us to a higher level for our kids.
So we're not saying goodbye to the basics, just adding to it.
Absolutely, that's right.
Well, it's a tall order, but we're on the right path. Dr. Merrill and Mr. Melito, thank you so much for joining me today on The School Picture to talk about Compass to 2015.
It's been great.
Thanks
for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And to learn more about Compass to 2015, parents and community members can visit vbschools.com. With thousands of easy-to-navigate pages, the website has a wealth of information and links to resources available within our schools. To our viewers at home, thanks for watching The School Picture.